My name is Rebekah Shirley. I'm the Deputy Director for Africa at the World Resources Institute. And we like to say that we're a non-profit research institution that's using data and tools to grow the markets for sustainable enterprise in Africa, where sustainable enterprise spreads from renewable and clean energy solutions into clean and safe mobility solutions, into forest protection and restoration, and into climate adaptation. And enterprise or business is really at the core of, or must be at the core of what sustainability will look like for the future of Africa, because enterprise is at the core of everything that we do on the continent. And so much of that is tied to what happens in the international arena, which is why this kind of international context is really, really critical. So I've learned a lot from our day and a half together. I was missed Monday, but I was here all of yesterday. And it was really exciting to hear sort of the response of the European legal fraternity to the emerging need to safeguard European homes and communities through the transition of energy systems to carbon futures. And I was thinking a lot yesterday about what that sort of translates into for the sub-Saharan African context. And so that's what I wanted to share with you a little bit about today. I probably won't take the full 45 minutes, so maybe that leaves even more time for conversation towards the end. But I wanted to talk about how this idea of local transitions and justice in a local context might actually elevate up to our understanding of what Louis called our shared international social contract. So indeed, the latest science from the IPCC panel on climate change makes it clear that climate change is, of course, an emergency that demands unprecedented, rapid, and far-reaching global action. The climate crisis is not a crisis in isolation. And Dr. Buller just gave us a rousing and very eloquent history of the origins of this movement, from the birth of the environmental justice movement into how that evolved into what we now call climate justice, and then this idea of the just transitions. My research colleagues and I draw on elements of definitions forwarded by various just transitions alliances and initiatives across the globe and offer up this working and operationalizable definition of a just transition. The set of principles, strategies, and practices required to transition workers and their surrounding communities into thriving economies that provide dignified, productive, and ecologically sustainable livelihoods, participatory and democratic governance, and ecological resilience. Now, policymakers in Europe and the US are turning towards a just transition framework that already begins to address domestic environmental justice. We just spoke about that for 90 minutes. And this is entirely laudable, and the supporters of these principles, who have been at this work for decades, must be deeply commended. And also to be commended are those of you in the room who are sort of members of the legal fraternity, practitioners, professors, researchers, doing the important and difficult work of translating this kind of definition and these principles into justice via the law. As you can imagine, the just transition provides a highly relevant framework for the Global South as well, where sustainable development and climate action must occur at the same time, simultaneously. I want to take 3 examples of just transition themes that are very relevant in the context, in the conversation as we speak, sort of live conversations right now. And these will take us through the themes of local to global labor force, labor markets, global production flows, and international finance. And hopefully these 3 examples will help place transitions within a broader international context and will illustrate the important role that the international community can and must play as a stakeholder in transition in the Global South. I then want to open up for dialogue to think with you all out loud about how we might partner together to address some of these more international justice challenges through the law. Major gaps remain in interpreting just energy transitions concepts for the African context. For example, what does it mean programmatically and politically to develop and implement a just transitions agenda in Africa's hydrocarbon, agricultural, or mining-dependent economies? How do we ensure that historically marginalized voices and voices at various power levels are included when planning and implementing just transition initiatives in Africa? And how do we ensure that the just transitions in Africa do not reinforce local inequalities and biases, such as the underrepresentation of women and other marginalized groups in governance? But also, there are some questions that we, as an international community, can probably help to answer together. For instance, how do we ensure that just transitions in the global south, and taking an example of the African context, do not reinforce global inequalities and biases, such as the non-protection of informal labor? Or how might such international global local dynamics be addressed through energy justice principles and by regions that have stronger judicial architecture? Or how do we partner using the law and using regulation to rebalance global local dynamics in the pursuit of energy justice for everyone everywhere? In Africa, the Just Energy Transitions Framework is still actively evolving day by day. And this global climate juncture represents an opportunity for African countries to pivot. This is a crucial time to develop local visions and bridge the conceptual communicative gaps between non-state actors, state actors, local policymakers, subnational planners in Africa, and to partner deeply with international allies. So I eagerly said yes to the opportunity to come and join you today to share these very unformed thoughts with such a prestigious community of the legal fraternity to explore solutions and collaboration together.
I think that's an ambition of the chair. It's to don't fear the vertiginous aspect, but to keep calm and be a lawyer, to subject per subject, in coherence, to take into account the interscalar aspect. That's very important. That's a point we discussed with Raphael a lot. Not to be national, not to be local, not to be international, but the three in the same time.